Okay. So today I'm make a presentation about the release of No Other Land in Germany and a small assessment of it. I was the distributor of this film in Germany. You know, in particular, I'm an exhibitor, but I restarted my activities as distributor some years ago. And when I saw the film last year at the Berlinale Film Festival, it was a really huge world premiere in the Kino International, and it was sold out, and it was a really touching moment because both directors here, Basil Adra on the left and Yuval Abraham on the right, were guests there, and I was quite sure that the film will have a distributor next day, but it wasn't. So I had some discussions with the World Sales and talked to them, and last year here in Bologna, when I was here, I had the negotiations with them, and I had a video with Yuval Abraham, and we talked about the release, and he asked me what is the strategy, and I say I'm an activist in that moment when I'm going to release the film in Germany. So it was this argument, and he agreed that I can release the film in Germany. So that was really interesting. So, No Other Land, who knows this film? Oh, okay. Okay, Elisa, of course, yeah, I know that. And Marlene too, yes. Yeah, No Other Land is a Palestinian-Israeli doc film that follows activist Basil Adra on the left, recording of the Israeli military demolition of his West Bank village Masaf al-Yatta between 2019 and 2023, and his alliance with Israeli journalist, which is Yuval Abraham on the right, as they made a film about displacement and resistance. I have to take this one. Okay. So the film was one of the most acclaimed documentaries in 2024 and 2025. The film won the Berlinale Doc Film Prize. The film won the Audience Award from Berlin. There is just one Audience Award, and this is the Audience Award from the Panorama. The film won the European Film Award, which is, I think, pretty important, and finally the Oscar in March. And all over, overall, the festivals, the film won over 80 prizes, which is, I think, huge. Yeah, and yet in many European countries, especially in Germany, its cinema release was challenging. It was cautious and even silent. So we had a lot of, we did a lot of work. It was a really, really nice project. But there was a kind of, discussion with the exhibitors in some ways. There were some exhibitors who were very, into the film, but there were other exhibitors who were, you will see. And in that way, so I have the question to you for the open session. What does that say about us? What does this say about our industry? And I have to switch here, sorry. Was too fast, right? Yeah, okay. And this is what I want to explore with you today. It could be a good discussion, so. Okay, so sorry, I have to check. Yeah, okay. So, when we launched the film, only 22 cinemas across Germany were willing to show it from the beginning. So we are pretty huge country with more than 1,000 cinemas, and it's not quite high, and it was challenging for us to convince the exhibitors to show the film in some way, but it was okay for me at the end. You will see, and what I would like to say is that this was linked to official bans or protests. It was something other. It was fear. That was my assessment of it. And it was fear of backlash. It was fear of being misunderstood. It was fear of being seen as taking sides, and in some way fear of riots. So it was really interesting to see what happened around this film with the exhibitors. And what we discovered was a form of self-censorship, driven not by a threat or something like that, but by hesitation. And what happened? There were no riots, no incidents, but full cinemas. So it was remarkable, and the film was screened without any trouble, welcomed by a really diverse audience, and followed by a lot of meaningful debates. So the film is in the top 5 of the past 12 months doc films. Over time, more than 150 cinemas came on board. Over 60,000 viewers have seen No Other Land so far. It indicates that audiences were not afraid about the film. Only some exhibitors were. So what we discovered is that the people left in silence or in tears. That was very emotional to me as well. So, and in some way they stayed to talk. It was very important in my cinema in Cologne. At the beginning, at the screening, I was in a room, and I talked to the people. Hello, you will see a very emotional film, and if you like, I'm here. I'm the distributor, and I'm here in the cinema. If you want, we can talk. And it was really, really nice to see it. After the screenings, it was pretty emotional, and it was really nice to experience. So, all right. No? Okay. Okay. I'm sorry. I have to check here. Okay. So in Germany, some public critics didn't just criticize the film or something like that. They tried to discredit the film. So that was really, really, really exciting to see how the media in some way react to the film, and some reviews called the film as a propaganda film, some call it anti-Semitic, politicians called it dangerous, the German ambassador of Israel called the film anti-Semitic in a live interview, and I would like to quote one critic. It was just a sentence. It would be better if this film did not exist, or at least if it were not released in Germany. So that was a kind of critic of a film. It's really strange, I think, in some way. But if cinema is only allowed to reflect, let's say, a dominant narrative, then what we are doing. So that's the question to me as an exhibitor, and maybe to you. And so as cultural places and spaces, we must resist this form of censorship and not repeat it. I have to go this way. I'm sorry. Okay. Oh God, no. Okay. No, yeah, okay. So what we identify was to screen. We are not just when we identify when we go to festivals and watch a movie and we want to screen it. We're not just picking a film and put it in a schedule. We're taking a stance. This is a kind of attitude. So I think this is quite important to know it, and it's a kind of selling point of our places. And if we truly see cinemas as democratic spaces, then relevance must matter more than convenience. I'm pretty convinced about it. So No Other Land tested our courage as curators, for instance, in Germany. I don't know how it was in the rest of Europe. I've heard that Italy was really, really good, but I don't know how it was in the other countries. Yeah, so I think that this kind of film yeah, there is a gap between our idols and actions, I think, but we have to take care of it. So we need to ask, do we want to be safe or do we want to be meaningful? So this is another question for the open discussion later on, I think. This presentation isn't really about just one film. It's about our role, and as exhibitors, we shape public conversation through what we choose and what we screen. And so I want to leave you with that question, which you probably have decided in November 2024. Thank you very much for your attention. I was on time? Okay.
I just had one quick question and then we'll open it up. You also had, did you also have the other side that was kind of challenging the film? Because in the UK, I don't know whether the same applies in Germany, but BDS banned the film.
Yes.
Did you have to deal with that as well?
No,
so yeah, just for context, BDS is the Palestine. It's a cultural boycott, basically, of films that have associations with Israeli.
Yeah, so we were pretty focused
links.
on cooperation with some NGOs, with Amnesty International, with B'Tselem. We had some cooperation with some Palestinian groups, but we understood very fast that there are some groups who don't like the film, and it's okay for us, so it was okay. So we handle it, and it's okay.
Did we have any immediate questions, or do you want to?
It's the rules of some BDS people. I don't know. They don't like if Israelis are involved in Palestinian projects and so on. So it is a kind of, rules. But I'm not interested in kind of this discussion. So for us, it was the group. We're not interested in the film, and that's okay for us. That was okay for us. So we handle it. So
yeah, we can share a link to that boycott afterwards. Has anyone got any immediate thoughts, or should we move to the next presentation?
Yeah, hi everyone. First, congrats Mustafa that you had the courage to do it. I'm wondering, because in Bulgaria the film didn't have a release too. It has just 2 screenings at the festival, Sofia Documental, last year in October. And since then I asked a few times, like, do we want to screen it again? But no one really dared. So we have the same problem, and I have to admit with you, I'm also afraid. Not because they will do something to myself, but because if I start doing it, then probably I will have less power to screen other films in the future, because the lobby is also very strong in Bulgaria. So I'm wondering how to deal with that, actually, and I'm curious to ask you then, like, you were going to media, you were communicating with different organizations, maybe let's say the embassy or the ambassador, because in Bulgaria this happens. They contacted you, or we have another organization of the Israelis in Bulgaria. They might contact you and ask you, like, what are you doing? They might mention your name in posts, like trying to lynch you. So this is happening. So how do you deal with that?
So our strategy was, just to talk about the topic of the film. We are all aware about Gaza and something like that, but the topic of the film is the demolition of the village Masafariata. So that was the topic of the film, and that was the foundation of our discussion. That was our strategy, not to get in other, discussions.
I think
and
we're
the shitstorms with that.
Yeah. We're going to pause it here, because we'll look at some of this in the presentations that are coming up. But thank you so much, and congratulations on the success of the release.
Thank you.
So I'm going to continue on the theme of to screen or not to screen. And I'm going to focus on the Bristol Palestine Film Festival, which we have been hosting in our cinema in Bristol in the UK since 2011, every year, every December. And we're very proud of the festival and the cultural celebration that it is. Obviously, following the events in October 2023, we and the festival team agreed that there were sensitivities attached to us putting on a festival in December. So we took quite a lot of time to kind of think and reflect about how we were going to address this and how we're going to communicate with our staff, with our audience. But we weren't new to this. You know, the festival has been a really, really good thing for the city, but we have had issues in the past. We are a charitable trust, we're a charity, so we are not in a position to take a political position or to stray into a position that people might perceive as political. And a number of years ago, in 2015, we were actually reported to the Charities Commission. I can't go into all the details, but it was a very long and expensive process for us. I can't go into all the details, but I think what was interesting was through us making some mistakes, we learnt a lot. And we were given some really, really good advice by the Charity Commission about how we might approach things in the future. So one of the things so in the end we won the case. So they didn't uphold the complaint, but they did make some recommendations about contextualizing events. So things like the Q&As, the introductions, and to be really mindful of how we approach that. And that kind of gave us a really, really good way forward. And all of that is to minimize the risk, basically, that we're taking when we're doing these kind of events. So we set up a kind of ethics policy. We actually looked at our constitution. So as a charity, we have a mission. And our mission is to further the appreciation of the arts in the Southwest. So we do program a whole range of cultural cinema, which is about bringing people together and creating a dialogue around about the world we live in and the issues that are there. Therefore, hosting the festival, which involves a number of films and screenings from highly regarded festivals, like your film, for instance, is in line with our mission. You know, this is not us straying into political territory and so on. We work with the BPFF, the festival, which is a separate charity which curate their own program. They work with different venues. For the films they show in our festival, we focus on festivals that have been shown at major festivals. So we're really in line with our cultural remit. We're also able to kind of question some of the choices. If we felt one of the films was propaganda, we might decide not to screen it. And yeah, I'm just going to share some of the measures we've put in place to stop us from becoming political. So many of the films feature panels and events, and I think the chairing of those events is absolutely key. Making sure that, you know, a little bit like I've done today when I started the session, recognizing that there might be different points of views in the room and allowing that to happen, and not reinforcing the point of view of the guests. So if someone says something very controversial, maybe not controversial at all, the chair needs to be the chair, and not go, yes, I agree, yeah, it's terrible. So we do quite a lot of briefings with with the people that are chairing the events. And to echo Mustafa's point about the way he approached the campaign, is to root all the discussions in the film. We are talking about the film. Now, how the audience reacts to that, how it makes them feel, we can't control that. But as long as we are creating a space where those discussions can happen in a very open way, then it's fine. I mean, the other thing we learned from our mistakes in the past was, don't record your events and put them online. And unless you've watched them again and you're absolutely sure you want that to live online, she says, talking to the stream. Yeah, things we did as well. I think it's really important to take your team on a journey with you. So we did a lot of briefings with our teams about how we talk about the festival, how they need to talk about the festival, to equip them. So if someone comes and says something, they know what to do. So our recommendation is to kind of direct people to the festival team, who have a desk in the space. If there's complaints, it's the same scenario. We also recommend that our team don't talk about the issues with the audience. They don't get into it. They can talk about the films that are on, the timetable, but we recommend they don't. And another thing that came up is actually our team is pretty diverse, and we realized some of the films were triggering some people in different ways. So we also kind of asked people to be a bit mindful in the office space, to not just assume everybody has the same life experience, has the same point of view. It might be difficult for some people for different reasons. So, and then we have like some kind of red lines of no tolerance to racial hatred or political campaigning during the event. So we have clear guidance to the chairs. If something like that happens, we ask the person to leave. If they don't leave, we stop the event. So there is a sort of way of, escalation to happen. And also, if something really bad happens, we do report ourselves to the Charities Commission to say something happened. Somebody did something, whatever. It might be something that was out of our control, but just to be always on the front foot. I'm not going to bore you with this, but risk assessments, really good to do risk assessments, just to think of all the things that might happen. What happens if someone has a banner? What happens if, we have a demonstration? And just thinking it through with the team and making sure all our front-facing team are equipped. Because it's all very good for the program team to decide, we do the Palestinian Film Festival, but what about the people on the front line? So to really equip them to deal with things. We also thought about some of the reaction of the audiences. So we had a quiet space where people could go if they felt distressed or they needed to have a big cry. So we had a quiet space which people could be taken to. So yeah, there is a lot of risk involved, but I feel like because things went wrong for us, in a way we've become much bolder about doing it, and we know we can do it. And risk can go the other way. So one of our partner venues, which have also been supporting the festival since its inception, also had a couple of events on and decided to cancel the events. And, it resulted in a huge, huge backlash. There was a 6-month boycott of the venue. 1,400 artists signed a petition, including some very high-profile Bristol artists, to basically urging people to not engage with that venue anymore. It was extremely stressful for the staff. So, the risk is also there if you don't take a position, or whatever you do, you are taking a position. So, yes, I think if you're worried, also worry about not doing anything. That's what I would say. Be even more worried. I don't know if I've got time. Have I got any more time? A couple of more. Yeah. So just on a completely different note, I thought this was also a useful example. We have a festival a little bit like Il Cinema Ritrovato, a much smaller version of it. And it was the 50th anniversary of Chinatown last year. We knew there was a pristine print at the BFI archive, and we were very keen to show the film because it's an important film in the history of cinema. But obviously, Roman Polanski, I jumped ahead. Roman Polanski was charged of multiple counts of sexual assault of a minor. There are issues with with showing that film. So we knew that the inclusion of the film would upset some of our staff members, potentially some of our audiences as well. So we were quite careful. And again, we went back to those principles that we learned with the Bristol Palestine Film Festival, which is like, okay, let's create a context for this film. We're not just going to show it and ignore the fact that it was directed by Polanski. We're actually going to do an event about, should we show it, should we not show it? And we had a philosopher there. We didn't get Claire Dederer, but we used her kind of the framing, around the fan's dilemma about, can you separate the art from the artist and so on. In the end, we did show the film, and we didn't get any complaints. It sold out. There was a really good debate about whether or not we should have shown it. And the same kind of things that I've shared about the Bristol Palestine Festival we applied here, offering a space for debate, being mindful about how your team feels about these things. We said to the teams they didn't need to work the event. If they didn't want to, they just had to let us know. Briefing them so they knew to direct any queries to the program team. So those principles are now embedded in the way we program. Okay, I'll leave it here.
Thank you so much, Maddy. That was very good. I think the transparency you're talking about is very important. You talked a bit about if you recognize propaganda films about the Palestinian Film Festival. How do you go through that? Is that do you have a programming team? Do you review that?
Yeah, I mean, we do review the films, and we obviously follow the films through the festival circuit as well. So we'll rely on intelligence that we've heard about, but if there was something that we hadn't heard about, which has come out of nowhere, we would watch it. And to be honest, now we've made the decision that we go with films that have had some kind of recognition. It has happened in the past that we've worked with groups that had very good intentions, but put on some events that were questionable in our venue, and then had questionable discussions that didn't allow the space for discussion. I can't go into the detail, but yeah.
Any questions for Maddy? Oh, here.
Thanks for this. This is very helpful, I would say, actually, to think about these topics. I just want to ask a bit of a maybe minor question, but for context. The Chinatown screening and the discussion around it. Yeah. Did you have the discussion at the screening or before that?
No, it's a good question. We actually separated them out.
Different days?
We separated the screening and the discussion. So people could choose if they wanted to come to the discussion before. And we actually, the only complaint we got was from someone that thought they had to go to the discussion to go to the film. So it was the right call, because we know some of our cinephile audience don't want to be told they shouldn't watch something. So then there was another introduction where it was more about the context of the film, the importance of the film, and we were mindful with comms and everything. We focused on the film was not written by Polanski. He's not the author of Chinatown, so we focused a lot on that in the introduction, and also it's there's very strong performances in that film. We talked about the collective endeavor of the film. So we were mindful of that.
All right.
I was just thinking, listening to the presentation and seeing what you present. It's to me depressing. I mean, there's so much fear in the way you have to kind of establish yourself not to be hurt by the reactions and so forth. And I feel we had a screening of No Other Land in my cinema where we had top-notch journalists from across the board, and they were beating about the bush because of the very same fear.
Yeah.
it was really depressing to watch. And it only came to life when we had a historian in the room who had an opinion. And he stated the question to the audience: do you think this is complicated? This is not complicated. He was shouting at the audience, and the whole scene came alive, and everybody was like applauding, because we're beating about the bush all the time because we're fearful of being accused of stuff. It's really depressing.
No, I mean, I completely hear you, and I think that's why we put so much care into chairing, so we can have those voices, like your historian person, be completely open about their own opinions. But we are working within a legal framework. We are a charity. You know, we could stop being a charity. That isn't one option. But we are a charity, so we have to respect the rules of the charitable commission, because otherwise we get taken to court. But it doesn't mean that we can't be bold. We can't have bold guests with strong opinions, and we can't create a democratic space for conversation. But yeah, I know.
Thank you. I think time-wise we're going to continue to Toomas, I think.
Hi, my name is Toomas and I'm from Estonia, Tartu Elektriteater. And today I'm going to talk about our cinema's programming during the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And before I start, I want to talk a little about our country's history, so you could better understand why we are taking this stance that we are. So, as you can see that Estonia is a border country to Russia, and throughout our history we have been occupied by many different people and many different countries. And in 1918 we finally managed to get our independence, but we lost it again after 20 years or so, because Soviet occupation started, then German for a little while, and then Soviet again. Until 1991, when we finally managed to get our independence back. And in 2022, when we at Estonia were preparing to celebrate our Independence Day, Russian invasion of Ukraine escalated. And because of our history with Russia and with being occupied, everyone in Estonia wanted to do something to help Ukrainians. And so also did the cinema community. So after the war escalated, the Estonian film and cinema industry decided not to bring any titles co-produced by Russia or Belarus to the screen anymore. Meaning that any movie where our ticket sale money would go to Russia, we didn't show them anymore. For example, we stopped screening Compartment Number 6, which was actually co-produced by Estonia. We were the screenwriters of the movie, and we still had to take it out of our cinema. But right now, most Estonian cinemas have decided if there is no financial gain for Russia or Belarus, then it is okay to distribute or screen the films in question, meaning that if no ticket sales money would go to Russia, then they are showing those movies. Like Master and Margarita is a pretty popular movie right now in Estonia, but we in Elektriteater have decided that right now it is not the time to show Russian movies, and even if like the financial side of things, everything is correct, we will not show those. But distribution chains can be quite long and complex, and even if on paper everything seems correct, we don't always know that. And the problem is quite a lot wider than just Russian movies. For example, 2 years back, Miyazaki's new movie, The Boy and Heron, was coming out in Estonia. And in Elektriteater we had already put out a few screenings, and they were mostly sold out already. And just a couple of days before the screening would have happened, it was I think like 4 days before the first screening, we got news from Lithuania that the distribution chain might have a link to Russia. And the problem was that basically a major European distribution company had sold its film rights of the movie to a British distributor company. And that had sold its Baltic rights to a new Estonian distribution company that had just formed by a couple in Estonia. And they didn't have any of the information that we were about to get. And basically we found out that the British distribution company had almost the exact same film catalog as the Russian distribution company. And some of the same people were working at the Russian company as the British one. Like when we looked into it, British distribution site had the same people working in as the Russian one. And so we in Elektriteater had to cancel the screenings and decided not to show it because it might help the Russian war machine. But most Estonian cinemas still showed it because on paper everything was correct, and we in the end we couldn't prove that the British distribution company and Russian distribution company were linked, but because the red flags were there, we decided not to show it. And we made headlines in Estonia's biggest media outlet. Sadly, I couldn't find the English one, but we became like these spokespersons for this topic because we were one of the only cinemas in Estonia who decided not to show it. But it is not only the boy and the heron that we had this situation. For example, we are still perceived as being part of Russian region in Estonia. And the large distribution companies, sometimes in Europe, package Baltic rights with those of CIS countries, or in other words, former Soviet Union countries, and sell the entire package to Russian distributors. And we can't buy the rights from there. And for example, Memory of a Snail didn't come out in Estonia because we should have had to buy it from Russia. But there are also smaller problems. Like most of the time, we only get local and Russian subtitles. We in Estonia would like to have Estonian and English subtitles, but because large distribution companies, they still perceive us as Russian region, and we get only Russian subtitles. So on one hand, it's understandable because Estonia has this large Russian population, but on the other hand, we want to distance ourselves from that. And also, Tartu, our city, is the biggest student city in Estonia, and we have a lot of foreign students whose second language is English. And if we have a movie that is not in English, they can't understand it. And then we have to buy like these special film screenings, and we have to do special marketing to it, and it can be quite hard. And even if you have these special English subtitled screenings, we have to do special marketing, and they are not very successful in our cinema. But in the end, we don't have all the answers, and we look at things case by case. We feel like distribution chains must change because it's absurd that we have to investigate the distribution chains ourselves, and that there are a lot of big movies from outside of Russia that we can't show. And right now we have taken the stance that no Russian movie is shown at our cinema, but still there are a lot of topics where we discuss those in our team meetings. And actually that's all. Thank you, and Slava Ukraini.
Thank you so much, Toomas. How big is your team if you're navigating this?
In our meetings, everyone is welcomed. So ticket sellers and projectionists all come there. But in our office, there is about 6 to 8 people who discuss it.
That's very good to know. Any questions from you guys?
Thank you very much for your insights. You talked about current films. Since I think it's appropriate to talk about classics in this case, how do you handle distribution of screening of classic films, or do you screen classics at all in your cinema?
Like for example, Stalker, we haven't shown it since the war started because it's more of a Russian movie. But these pictures actually that are here are from our program called Stalking Eastern Europe, where we show the sci-fi movies from former Soviet Union countries. So for example, Estonian navigator Pirks was there, and under the Silver Globe from Poland. And if the main country is like Polish, and if no money will go to Russia, then we have shown some movies.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I mean, Thank you for the presentation. How do you find movies? Because I know that most of the sales agents, they sell movies to a big distribution company in Russia. So how do you find, I mean, how do you manage to program your cinema? I know there is other films than, you know, but I mean, French movies are sold to Russian companies.
We just don't show them. We have like this one screen room, so there is only like a limited amount of movies that we can show. And yeah, a lot of movies just don't come out in Estonia because of that. And we show what we can. But still, a lot does come out. And because we can only like during the work days, because we are a one screen cinema, we can only show 2 movies most of the nights. So because we have this limited room, then yeah, we show what we can.
Have you thought of starting distribution then? Like trying to contact directly sales agents and maybe extract the Estonian or maybe Baltic rights from them?
We have done it a few times. Right now, mostly for our cinema, and but before we have distributed ourselves, like Ida, we distributed it. But yeah, it depends on our financial side of things and so on.
Thank you so much, Toomas.
Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everybody. I told you in advance the situation in Venice about the cinema is very peculiar. I mean, there are 3 cinemas, and all of them are public. I mean, the city council is the owner of the cinema. It means that politics it's involved in some way in our decision and what we can do, what we have to do, and so we have some barriers and some suggestions. I mean, many times. We spoke already that the movie is not simply a piece of art. I mean, there are many stuff, many questions, many reasons inside the movie. Is part of many of them. They are part of our life. Many of them are controversial, and there are many, at least for me, controversial subjects. I mean, I was thinking last night, if in this period historical there are much more controversial subjects than, I don't know, 50 years ago. I'm not really sure, because some of them are the same than 50 years ago. Maybe the question is they are still there. But in any case, for many of them, anytime there is a movie speaking about this subject, I have to think, okay, it's not only we can do it, in which way, which is the best way to do it, to present the movie, in which cinema, because every cinema has a different public, in a way. Do we need somebody to help us, like an historian or something like that, or we can do it, how many days is better? Do I have to tell above me that we are doing that kind of movie just to be sure that everything is fine, or not? To be honest, I have 2 levels to be 2 levels of attention. One is the public and one is the politic. The public, it's very sometimes very not very open, or open. It depends of the movie. You know, in other land, these are real complaints we received by email or Facebook or in chat. You can see the messages are really polite, but at the same time they are very strong and explicit. They tell us about censorship, complicity in something inhuman, and blackmail in a way. They are blackmailing us. No, I'm going to tell to the newspaper that you are showing the movie for a couple of days only. It's a controversial movie in a way. We already spoke about this. And during a screening, to be honest, at the end, we had two people arguing with violence, really. So we decided after that to keep an eye on security. At the end of every screening, one of us was going inside the room just to be sure that everything was going on polite way. Everyone here was complaining because the movie at the beginning was we programmed the movie just for only a couple of days, just to understand what maybe at the beginning we didn't know what to expect. In Venice there is an important Jewish community. Sometimes I have to, in this case, for example, for one projection, to signal to the police that we are doing this kind of stuff just for security. But we decided as well after a couple of days to program the movie for another week, and we have some discussion at the end of the movie with people, with the public, and we were able to manage in the right way the discussion. I mean, there was nobody kicking or punching at the end of the movie, but it was really a challenge, something really that it didn't happen before with other controversial movies, but it was really the first time that was so strong the reaction of the public. Another example is this 20 days in Mariupol. It was in collaboration with the Ukrainian community of Venice. They raised after their screen some money to send to the Ukrainian people, and we received some complaint from some, I cannot say, the other part of the public. You know, in Italy, the government too is split in one in favor, one more in favor of Russia, and one more in favor of Ukraine. And the same it was the public. In this case, I can add the city council was more in favor of the Ukrainians. So we received the suggestion to help this kind of movie, because in general we have two options. The movie could be in our programming and it's fine, or if it's something I'm not able to do it, you can rent the movie. In that the cinema. In that case, you are free to do everything, any kind of movie. Otherwise, I have to choose some time, which we are allowed in a way to do, and what is that we are better not showing. Another example is Leni Riefenstahl. We were in the process of deciding what to do for the anniversary of Leni, 20 years after her death. But just the day before, Hamas decided to attack Israel, so we stopped immediately. You can imagine the situation, the suggestion from the politics about that. So with my colleague, we were discussing for many weeks what to do, because in any case, it's something from if you are a cinephile, something that you have to show. At least this is my opinion. So the question was, which is the best way to show this kind of work? And the idea, at the end, we decided to show a couple of movies during the Holocaust Memorial Day with the help of one historian. I have to say it well, really, really good. I mean, everybody was understanding. It was clear that it was just a discussion about the movie and not something completely different. It was about it's about showing the power of this director, of the work of this director. Another example, completely different, just to show you. Okay, Cine Moving is a program that we started 7 years ago. It's a little van with 100 seats and one projector. We move around the city in 15 different locations. And every night there is a different movie for 60, 70 days during the summer. Almost every single night there is a politician presenting the night, not the movie, just to say, hello, I'm here, everybody, we are the people that are taking the movie to your neighborhood. Year after year, the requests from the politics are every year more explicit. I mean, at the beginning, I was deciding which movie we were showing every night. Now I have to fight almost for 50% of the night, and it's increasing every year. Because in a way it's it's not like a movie itself. It's like it's like they want to have an happy movie because it has to be an happy night, because everybody has to be happy, because if you are happy you vote better. So at the moment, I have to prepare a list of movies, almost happy, very happy, and only in some places I'm able, because there is not the politics as well. I hope you're not recording. In that case, because you are recording, I have to remind to you and to myself that I'm not allowed to speak. By Italian regulation, because I'm a civil servant, I'm not allowed to tell anything against the public administration. So there are some other stuff that I can say, but only at lunchtime or in coffee break. In any case, the title of my presentation, I will prefer not to, is because sometimes I would like to say no, but it's impossible. So the only way is just to relax and try to find, if it's possible, another way to show, or another time to show the same movie. But in any case, the decision for us, for the general programming, is if the movie is on the first release, we have to do it, in any case. And after that, we can decide if we need a presenter or an historian or something like that. But in any case, if the film is coming, we are going to show it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this, and thank you for, your honesty in presenting the situation. As I said at the beginning, we are all dealing with very different political contexts, different institution status, different. Also, we are at different levels in the organizations. I mean, some of you are like entrants into the industry, and some of you are like running companies. So yeah, I think for this whole discussion, let's be mindful of that. We're not all like decision makers as well. some of us are just working in companies and might need to think about how we can influence things, but from a different side. I just wanted to open it up briefly for the whole room if you had any questions for any of the presenters. Yeah.
I have one for Nicola. Thank you for the presentation. I was focused mainly on maybe on a side part of your presentation, which are the online messages that you received. Because we had a very similar situation when Liliana Segre documentary came out. Liliana Segre is a senator who's a Holocaust survivor. And part of the public was against the release of this documentary because she didn't take an explicit stance against what Israel was doing in Palestine. And we woke up a morning with 150 comments on our Facebook post announcing the times for the screenings, because a newspaper published relaunched our normal Facebook post, and people were very explicit, aggressive, and violent between themselves, and arguing about the political situation in Palestine. And so we had to give ourselves some rules to how to reply, which comments to cancel, which comments to leave there as a testimony of the conversation. So which kind of rules did you use to reply to these people?
We decided not to cancel any comment. Doesn't matter. You wrote it, and fine. Your decision. And to be honest, many times we're not replying, because there is nothing to say. Okay, you're not in favor. Okay, and there are 10, 12, 30 people replying to that person, and they are discussing inside. It doesn't matter if it's your page or my page. They just want to fight. And to be honest, I was there when there was a discussion in another land, and they were not really discussing. Sorry, they were shouting, but they were not listening each other. It was just some time to put everything outside, like in a psychological session, and I don't know. I don't have really a solution, but I am in the position where I'm not able to reply what I'd like to reply. So the question most part of the time is if it's too aggressive, we don't reply. If it's something about the programming, why 2 days and no more, we reply, don't worry, next week it will be for other days. Maybe we change a movie. We will show you, we will send you the day and the hour, and that's it. Something really clear and not about the question itself. I mean, we're not discussing the movie online.
Thanks.
Were there any other questions for the presenters? Got one at the back.
Hi, I think it's for both of us, both of you. When you announced those screenings, and Maddy, when you announced that discussion before the screening of Chinatown, I think. Where do you post this? Is it on your website? Is it like it's very simple, but I'd like to know how you contextualize this event. Maybe you've said, but I miss.
Yes, so we did think about the chronology, because I think it is really important. So the chronology was, we shared it with our staff first, and they could get in touch with us. They could be angry. They could say they don't want to work. They think it's mad, and we listened, to their reaction. And then for the public, we announced the two things together. So we're showing Chinatown. We know it's controversial. If you want to come to a debate about why we're showing it and have your voice heard, come along. We announced it together,
Yeah, it's the same for us. We announced in advance that there will be a discussion after the movie with maybe with some mediator.
We face the same problems when we have controversial stuff with all these like Facebook comments and so forth. And I think the best thing here is to act as facilitators. So I mean, to show no other land in a way, you could call it an act of activism, but we don't announce that we're activists. We are just facilitating the meeting between the artwork and the audience. And I think it's also what we're trying to say when we have these difficult discussions with Polanski or whatever, that it's not our job as cinemas to stand in the way of the audience and the work. It's the opposite. It's to facilitate the meeting, and then we have to take everything that goes with it. But speaking of Polanski, we had the same situation because I'm also working as a distributor. So we had Chacus, which is undeniably a terrific work of art. It's Polanski, and we have our staff, and that was the first thing I did. Is it was on the table. I just needed to sign. It would be good money as well. And I was asking my staff, how do you feel about promoting the latest Polanski? Mainly female staff, by the way. And they were not amused. So we just went back to the sales agent and said, thank you, but no thank you. Then someone else took it, and then we said, okay, it's in the market. When it's in the market, we accept to screen it in the cinema, because we're not the ones to make a boycott. But to me, it felt kind of, I felt more free just being the cinema in this case. So it's really complicated. I was not the one making sure that the film would be in distribution, because there's also some kind of economic censorship and all kinds of censorship. We don't get all films in the market anyway. So the audience cannot demand of distributors that you take home the latest Polanski. But when the Polanski film is there, my audience will insist that I book it in the cinema.
Yeah, it was on Chinatown, that was interesting. The money became a big part of the discussion. Like, because it's a historical film, Chinatown, is Polanski directly benefiting from the money? And we never got quite to the bottom of it. We don't think so, we don't think so, but it's because it's so complex, the rights picture, and to actually get the clarity. But going back to the presentation about Russian films, I think, yeah, follow the money, isn't it? And can you justify showing a new film by someone that perhaps shouldn't be getting the money? Those are the kind of ethical dilemmas that we're dealing with. And we make choices all the time. So although we can say we're here to serve the market, or we're there to serve the community, we are making choices all the time. Whether those are called activism, you use the word activist. You know, I can't use the word activist because we're a charity. You can't because you're in a political context. So however we choose to frame it, we are making choices. Oh.
It is just reflection that came to my mind when we speak about Roman Polanski. I just, think about how unfair it is that, we look into like bios or sexual life or particular artists like Kevin Spacey or Woody Allen. But if we think that art is always made by people, we should always know, this is a question, what kind of people they are, right? Because, of course, I have also a problem with Roman Polanski, Woody Allen, or Kevin Spacey. Should we present their movies or not? Should we present Russians classic or not? Of course, in Poland we have the same issue. We don't present Russian movies, but today, during Il Cinema Ritrovato, there's a, like in Modernissimo, in this beautiful, very prestige place, like movie by Giga Viertov, and I feel like a bit uncomfortable somehow. I don't know if you have the same from Estonia, for instance. So yes, we have to always make a choice, but we always are so much influenced by local context. And I really experienced it when we had this huge debate, not about the no other land, because we didn't have any, protest, but we also didn't show it very regularly in our cinema because there was no really interest in it. We showed it during the festival of documents, and the film got some awards, but we didn't have like such huge protest. But for instance, Green Border by Agnieszka Holland, that was maybe not piece of art, but that was like political gesture, and it was political gesture to make it and also to present it. And I remember at that time I used to live in Stuttgart, and I was so much influenced by those discussions, Polish discussions from the country, protests, articles, and so on and so on. And I went to the cinema in Stuttgart, and there were like 5 people. I, my friend, and 3 other Polish people. There was like amazing discussion about the borders, about immigrants. But really, I had this experience that I am interested because this is like very close to me. And in general, this is very important question about the borders, right? About the immigrants. But there was, no interest of other people. So it was quite sad. But on the other hand, I completely agree that we have to make like choice in very, very local context. And it's so hard to say from this general position. And again, the particular artist, for me, it's like on the one level, I don't want to present movies made by some artists, or I don't want to read, books written by some, artists. But on the other hand, I feel like that this is like always questioning in my head, and I ask myself every day, if it's really fair or unfair if we think about the art, not about the life of, people.
I guess, yeah, that these are, so this we have the same problem with it. I guess the historical thing is interesting. Cinema is a young art form compared to other art forms. Now, what I would say to you is go and have a walk around the Louvre or your local museum and ask yourself, who are these people? And would any of the paintings be on the wall anymore? So that, for me, that's when you look at historical work, then you get into sort of censorship and trying to understand history and understand how films are a reflection of different points in history.